Hey everybody, Andy here. Happy Thursday, live office hours. Great to have ya. Hope it's sunny where you are. It's sure as bright as heck where I am. And looking forward to a great show today. I got a nice package on some, I call them beliefs in my life that help me get over any kind of fear and worry. I'm going to share them with you today. If you're here with me live, get in the chat, say hi, let me know who you are, where you're from, what you do, what you need. Put some question marks in front of your questions. After I go through the teaching portion today, we'll go right into the Q&A. Got some good time for you. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. So get in, say hi. Everything looks pretty good on my end. So I'm going to get right into it. So what do I want to talk about today? Actually, today and tomorrow. So the rest of this week, I want to teach you about becoming the best at what you do, living the best life, becoming the best you can be. And a big part of that is not just the mechanics of what should I do, how should I get better, what makes things tick and all that good stuff. There's an element to becoming the best. You have to start. And whatever it is that you want to do. And a lot of times we have these fears or worries that prevent us from even getting out of the gate. So today I want to talk about how do we get over that initial hurdle to get in motion. It's about really overcoming that fear to get started and keep moving. Everything I'm going to teach you today, there's 7 big points I want to hit, are all aimed at getting you into motion and staying in motion, especially as it relates to overcoming any fears or concerns or worries. They're all cut from the same cloth. So that's what we're going to tackle. Now, yesterday, if you're on my email list, I sent you a message about today's show, and in that message, I pointed you to a video called 3 Best Ways to Overcome Your Fears. It was a video I shot last year that was very tactical based on the type of concern you have, fear you have, and mechanically how to actually overcome that. It's very prescriptive, but it talks about specific issues, specific types of fears. If you haven't checked that out, I suggest you check it out, and it's a great running start. Today is going to be about these beliefs that I have, lessons that I've learned, and then tomorrow is going to be a longer prescription of mechanically what to do to become the best at your trade. So let's talk, really what this lesson is about. I feel like I got this supercomputer up here. It sits on my shoulders. You have one too. It's awesome, and it's really powerful, and it can cover about 6,000 to 6,200 thoughts a day. So the surveys say. That's a lot of stuff going through this noggin. And one of the problems, but wait, it gets even better. In addition to it being cluttered with all those thoughts on any given day, when we have the littlest space, moments to think, our brains are wired to want to prioritize things of affective value over other stuff. Affective value, not effective value. So what do I mean by that? Generally speaking, we as humans want to prioritize affective value, things such as anger, fear, worry, those kinds of elements. I'm assuming that's from our long lost ancestors who actually needed to prioritize that. We, that work in this century, it really isn't a thing, even though we still make it a thing. So a big part of what we're going to be talking today about is how do we get our mind in the right spot? What do we focus on so that we're able to avoid that and create space in it? And I always feel like, one of the big things for me that I've noticed is that we tend to fear what we don't understand, and we tend not to fear what we do understand. But in order to actually gain knowledge, we have to take action, and taking action can be anything from researching, right, evaluating, doing, trying, and those kind of things. And once we are able to do that, our fears tend to subside. But sometimes our fears are so overwhelming that we're not able to take that action. So I wanna give you these beliefs that I have discovered over my 55 years, and I hope they'll help get you in motion. All right, here's number 1. This is kind of, I'm going to address different topic areas related to, I think, what stops us. This is kind of the main issue. But focus, I hope you can see these cards. Focus makes problems disappear. And focus is very difficult for a lot of people. You've not been taught to focus. And I think there's there's actually a couple of issues related to focus. Number one is our daily calendars are filled with a lot of things that are meaningless. They're just not important. There's a lot of very unimportant activities on our calendars, and there's very few true priorities. That in and of itself creates problems with us being able to get at the things that are really important to us, whether it's because we work in jobs that operate that way, or more likely, we have not taken control of prioritizing things that truly matter to us. That's one big element where we have problems focusing. And then the other issue is when we're focusing on any given thing, there's always two sides to every coin of everything that you focus on. There's the things that you actually want to happen, and then there's the things that you worry about because you're afraid or worried about what might happen related to what it is you want to happen. I would like to write that book, but I'm not sure where to begin. I would like to write that book, but I'm afraid it's going to fail. I'm afraid nobody will read it. I'm afraid I won't be able to get a publisher or a literary agent, whatever it is. And we tend to concentrate on what we're afraid of. And the one big thing is, if you can concentrate on what it is you want to happen, you're going to have a greater likelihood of it actually happening. And about 1 million people in this world have said, and I believe this to be true, is that our energy manifests what we think about. It doesn't know good and bad. It doesn't know which side of that coin is the right one. It just is. And wherever your energy goes, that's what you're going to bring about. So if you can get your focus to be on what you want to happen, a lot of that other stuff will disappear. And I've long said that your greatest weapon against time is being fully present with what you're doing. That's what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about focusing on what it is that you want. So here's a little trick I'm going to give you that helps me free up my mind from things that I might worry about. And I want to give you this little tip that's really worked for me. In the last 100 days, actually I have it right here. In the last 100 days, so basically let's cover June, July, and August, and whatever we are into September here, almost 9-10 days in. And I keep a booklet. It's a field notes book. This is it here, and inside, there's a couple of little moleskin booklets or whatever. And this one right here is what I call my worry book. So every time that I have a worry, any fear, any worry, any fleeting thought, however light it is, if I'm thinking about something in the future, and that obviously might or might not happen, anytime I do that and it's a negative thought, I write it in this book. So on June 28th and 29th and 30th, I had a couple of little worries. One was about a business that I run that you guys are not familiar with. Another one is about something I was doing during a live show. July 18th, 20th, and 24th, I had some worry about something athletic. On July 27th, I was worried about the business again. And then on August 26th, I was worried about getting sick. And I'm going to tell you that exactly 0 of those things actually came to fruition. Now, on the one hand, I think that's pretty good that I've only literally had 8 things in the last 100 days, 8 times, I should say. It's not even 8 things. It's really more like 3 things, 4 things that I thought about in a negative fashion. Now, obviously, that I'm not perfect. I'm not 0 for the 100 days. But the point is, if you can pull something together like this, so I challenge you to do this for 30 days. Okay, and what it'll do is, number one, it'll free your mind. Once you write stuff down, you tend to want to let it go, even if it's a worry. And the second thing is, if you go back and you actually look at it, so keep a worry booklet or a list or a whatever. We all got these little phones and stuff. If you want to put it in your notepad, I really don't care where you put it. But unload it and then go back every week and see how many of those actually happened. right? One of my favorite quotes, Mark Twain, it's a Mark Twain quote. I'm sure I'm going to get this close, but although I'm sure there's variations, and he said something like, I've been through some terrible things in my life, some of which actually happened, right? So we tend to worry a lot. We tend to get stuck. We tend to be fearful for a lot of things that never even come to fruition, or even if they do, they tend not to be as bad as we made it up in our mind. So that's the first tip, right? So that will help you with focus. Now, actually, if you are interested in much more about focus, I have an entire session in my leadership coaching program if you want to take a deeper dive. But that's one element. The second thing I want to say to you guys is, and this is going to sound super obvious after I say it. It'll sound super obvious after I say it and be like, duh. But I want you to think about, do you actually ever think about this day in and day out? But when it comes to yourself, when you look at you are always a whip, okay? What do I mean? You're always work in progress, right? Except you don't think about yourself that way, and you don't think about me that way. So what do I mean? Just as an example. All right, so I sit here today in front of you, right? Some of you might have just found me this morning. Some of you might be following me for a few years. But I look to you like finished product, right? Here he is. He's giving you a talk on his beliefs and so on. And I look like a finished product. And even what I'm presenting to you looks like a finished product. But nothing could be further from the truth, right? I am constantly in a state of change and evolution. And whenever we create something in our lives, as we go through the creation of what we want to accomplish or what we want to tackle, I have news for you. The masterpiece never looks like a masterpiece when you're in the middle of it, right? The surgeon, as she stands over the patient whose tummy she has ripped open, looking down, that masterpiece doesn't look like a masterpiece during the middle of the operation, right? It isn't until the great big smile on the patient's face when he's all healed that it becomes a masterpiece. And so think about that. When you're in the middle of something, it's never going to look like a masterpiece. And that includes you. It includes anything you develop, right? That book is not going to look like a masterpiece inside Microsoft Word, right? And so when you're going through and you're actually creating, I have a line out there, today's line to live by. If you follow me on the social media sites, I put these out every morning at 7 a.m. And one of them is, the plagiarizer never sees the invisible work that makes the masterpiece, right? It isn't. Somebody will, I can almost say that with certainty, take this talk I'm giving today, copy the 7 points, and then go make a talk of their own, right? From the 7 points. But they never see all the work that went into creating the talk, or the book, or the paper, or the project, or the system, or the whatever. It certainly didn't happen this week, right? This is 55 years being manufactured and harnessed into 20 or 30 minutes to deliver it to you. But the plagiarizer can never see that. But one extension of that, yourself. Remember, and I wrote this one out for you, as you want to create something in your life, and the masterpiece will never look like a masterpiece during the process. But for you, the work internally is what makes the masterpiece the masterpiece. It's the journey. For everybody else, it's the finished product at the snapshot at a moment in time, and maybe it lives forever or maybe it evolves. But a masterpiece can never be a masterpiece unless it benefits somebody else, and it cannot benefit somebody else unless the thing is breathing. So you need to be able to create it and get it out into this world. And if you're hemming and hawing and afraid about its receipt, you're going to have to get over that. So I want you to have a bias for action. And the tip is, if you can get your mindset wrapped around creating MVPs, minimum viable prototypes or minimum viable products, whatever it is that you want to call this. But spend the least amount of time and the least amount of money getting something livable and breathable out into this world. Now, it could be a training course like I give to you, or a talk, or it could be a white paper you write, or it could be a process that your team uses. But I always say you can't scale version 0, but you can scale the heck out of version 1.0. Okay, I have things out there, 4 years old, they're still in version 1.0. And I have some things that are in version 1.3, and some 2.0, and some that are in version 15.7. So, but this bias for action will keep you in motion, and what else will this do? It'll give you momentum, right? And once things are produced, it's going to make you happy, and you can work with it. And you won't know if it's a masterpiece until you get it living and breathing. And what'll happen is the people who are using it will help you make it a better masterpiece, and they'll get value out of it. All right, so that's the second thing. Third thing, let's talk about your outlook here. There is a treasure in everything that you do. Sometimes it's under the dirt, right? Sometimes you got to look under the dirt. So what do I mean by this one? Well, every obstacle that you have in your life is put there is fuel for strength for you. It's the gasoline you live on, right? It's the stuff that makes you better. But if you continue to either shy away from it and avoid it, you're not going to benefit. And the second thing is, if you do encounter it, if you embrace it, or heck, invite it, for crying out loud, then you're going to be better off. And so, and how you interpret everything that you go through. I always tell you, experience is not what happens to you, it's the meaning you attach to what happens to you. The application of that is what'll make you grow. The application of that is what'll help you enjoy what it is that you're doing. So on this guy, I got a little question for you here. So I know all of you that are out here that are with me right now. You've been through some great things in your life and you've accomplished a lot. But I want you to humor me here for a second. Just close your eyes for a second, and I want just 3-5 seconds. Just close your eyes. I know I can't see you doing it. I'm hoping that you do it with me. Think about the greatest accomplishment in your life. Think about the one, damn, what's the first thing that comes to my mind? And just think about it for a second. You got it? It could be the thing you're most proud of, the biggest thing you accomplished. I don't care what it is. All right, now, I want you to think about how many easy days do you remember when you went through that? Do you remember any? Because I know I don't. Not the biggest accomplishments. Because if there were a lot of easy days associated with any major accomplishment, then you're probably afraid of a lot of things, right? You probably are afraid to shoot big, or you're afraid. Now, everybody's Mount Everest is a different size. Don't get me wrong. And I would invite you to share that, because I would love to see, okay, 11, 18. I would love to see what some of your greatest accomplishments are, and be proud of them. But how many easy days do you remember? All right, so no matter what the outcome, there's value in the experience, there's value in the lesson. So the tip here, the treasure tip is value the gift. And have faith that you benefited from that. You did. I promise you there was a treasure there. You just chose not to take it with you. And don't let your experiences confine you. Let them inform you. Okay, don't be afraid to do something again because you tripped the first time. All right? Okay, so that's that one. Let's talk about outcomes and how people look at things. I say, although the expression sounds different in my head, then I'm going to give it to you, but you're going to get the gist. Short timers, they focus on wins. Long timers, they study their plans. What do I mean? Short timers, people who quit. People who quit, they focus on winning. They focus on the outcomes. People who are mainstays, who can last, they have a plan. And so what's the difference? Well, I want you to think about fear and worry here. Short timers People who quit early, quitters, people, right, just, they're going to lose, right? What happens? They're so worried about a victory right out of the gate. You are never more at risk of throwing in the towel than at the first stumble. Okay, so a short timer is very focused on winning early. And if they don't win, they get discouraged, they throw in the towel, and they quit. That's what happens, right? As if their expectations should be met. As if somebody with no experience who wants to try something that's new to them should immediately succeed. Believe me, if you are fortunate enough to have good success early on, then I think you really need to look at how you're going about doing what you're doing, because that success likely won't last if you're going to shoot really big. But that's for another day. Long timers, they tend to look at the plan, and everything that they do is done within the context of some kind of strategy that has plans along the way. They fall in love with the planning process, not the designated plan itself, because as they get into the process, they look at, based on what they're learning, which puzzle piece of my plan is this? It's just a step. Okay, now I have experience with that. Now I understand that. It might not have turned out how I would have liked, but it's just a step in the overall process. And once they get more so I think planning is such a silly thing, right? Like, I have a plan and I'm going to stick to it. That's about the dumbest thing in the world that you can do, because plans are built based on what? Your own experience of something you did previously, or somebody else's experience that they've shared with you, and now you put a plan together. Except what? The moment you take your first step, you now know more than you did before you started the plan. Why would you not be comfortable altering that plan, recognizing the experiences that you're gaining and the data you're gaining are helping you put together a better plan? I'm not talking about, oh, that didn't work, I'm out, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about keeping the same plan within the strategy that you designed for your life, for yourself, for your project, for your whatever. Okay, so keep that in mind here. And the tip here that I want to pull forward for you is, put the plan together, put the strategy together, put the plan together. Here's another one of my lines. Big plans, tiny steps, fulfills dreams. Big plans means I'm going to shoot big. Go big. Put the puzzle pieces in place as you take your steps forward. This is what's going to get you to where you want to go. Your fears are going to dissipate the more knowledge you gain about how aligned the plan is. Okay, so make sure that is part of your life. Then we have overwhelm, the bigness of it, right? The book example I used. How am I going to write? There's so many things. Oh my goodness. Well, I will tell you, one actual step is going to do far more for you than all that mental overwhelm, emotional overwhelm, what you want to call it. This is this fits nicely with the expression about the elephant. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Or the other one, the other one related, you can't eat an elephant in one bite, right? Same kind of thing. Here again, action, taking your step, having your bias for action and getting in motion. But let's talk about this one. That book example, right? Yeah, there's 1,000 things you need to do to write a book. It's literally that many. But if you start thinking about and worrying about and putting your energy into the things that you are afraid of, like it might flop. What if no one reads it? That's not going to help you, right? No amount of worry and anxiety is ever going to change the outcome other than preventing you from starting. So what do you think about? Okay, write down a list of everything that needs to be done. I need to pick a topic. I need to make an outline. I need to set time aside for a writing schedule, maybe prepare a good writing schedule. Maybe I need to get my butt out of bed very early to write it before work. How many words do I need to write a day? How long will this take me? Do I want to put a plan and a deadline for when I want to have the book written? Do I need to find a literary agent? Do I want to self-publish? How do I find a publisher? Which one do I choose? What should I have them do for me or not do for me? What are these royalty things? How do I make money if I make money for this? How can I use the book? What does the dang cover going to look like? All that stuff. Well, guess what? People do that. People release books every day, right? So If you have a bias for action, you will gain momentum. Momentum will make you happy. It in and of itself will feed itself. So when you come to stuff like this where you're feeling overwhelmed, just use, I have like a one action step or a one action rule or something like that. But what is the next thing I need to do right now? Now, this works a couple of ways. So there's hey, I want to write the book. What's the next step I need to do? Okay, when I'm done with that, what's the next step? If you want to have visibility, you want to have a plan with a list, that's great. I like that. But don't be thinking about the 70 things you need to do. Think about the next 3 to 5. What are they? And then just focus on the one thing you actually need to do with your eye on what the next thing is and the next thing will be. And go that route. I used to work with a woman, Nicole, and she was on a team that I managed. And inevitably, about once a week, she would come into my office and say, Andy, I'm so overwhelmed. I have so much to do. And oftentimes, the solution, we did the same thing every week. I said, okay, Nicole, let's sit down. All right, where's your list of all the things that you need to do? And she'd say, okay, well, here's some things and here's some, so like, get these in order. Let's look at them all together. And all right, so obviously you can only do one thing at a time. I like to think that you can only do one thing at a time. You can do more things. You can do multiple things at the same time. You can only concentrate on one thing at a time. So sure enough, as soon as she would see that list written out and we would break it down and I would say, okay, what's the next thing you need to do? And then what will you do after that and after that? And just sequence these and so on and so forth. And all of a sudden, right, the blood pressure would go down. It's the same thing for you. But just get that bias for action. All right, next thing. All right, so I've got this bias for action, right? But I want to do something mega, big. I want it to have value. How do I look at it from that standpoint? I got news for you. Fewer enables bigger. You can only have so many big stones in your life, big goals, big priorities. It's true. The less is more will never become more evident to you as you go and get older. Right? As you go through life, if you want to accomplish big things, you have to reduce the number of things that have your attention. So when you think about your life right now, I look at my life, and my life is stripped down to, right? And these are all priority ones, right? I have you guys, me, my work, right? Us together. That's meaningful to me, and we can go deep. I have my wife, my really immediate close family and friends, right? That's a huge priority. And I have my health. And everything that I do that isn't work or my family is geared toward creating a healthy lifestyle for myself. Sans my cigars and my martinis, no jokes about those, right? So, but you get what I'm saying. You can only go so big on so many things. So I want you to think about that and the way that I look at that is, and I've given you this line before, right? You can only commit we only have a finite amount of energy and resources ourselves. And yes, we can manufacture some energy, but it's a finite resource. So when you think about going about allocating that energy, that time, and all that good stuff, right? You have to be able to commit to certain things in your life. And no one who ever undercommitted ever overdelivered, right? So if you are getting pulled away from, you got to get your focus back on the things that matter. It's easier to do that when you have fewer of them. So I want you to think about that. And one other little, I'm going to give you a 1-second test here. When you want to do something, you're going to get to a fork in the road at some point. And you're going to determine, was that a deep desire, like it means something to me? Or was it just a passing fancy, a fleeting whatever, something a friend mentioned, an idea I had, and I wasn't totally committed to it? You're gonna get there. And what I want to make sure that you don't do is you don't get so deep into it that you then realize it was just a passing fancy because you weren't really committed to it. And so, one of the things that I would do here is I would think about, is this something that is about, who I want to be? Like, is this going to be a part of me? But first thing I would do here is I would make shorter lists. I would have them have deeper meaning so that it enables you to have bigger accomplishments. Okay, and then the last thing that I want to talk about is how do you actually push through those forks in the roads? We'll talk a little bit more about the fork in the road here in a second, but you're going to have a lot of those, right? You're not going to be sure if these things are really meaningful to you and you have fear of starting or you're worried along the way. This thing to me, I save the best for last. This is what will pull you through every single time, is caring is a superpower. You will never be able to accomplish great stuff until you give yourself full permission to care. And what comes with care? Hurt, right? I give you permission to get hurt, okay? It's going to happen. But how you look at it, and if it matters enough to you, you'll pull through it. So when you get to that fork in the road, right? Is it a deep desire or is it a passing fancy? The 1 second tip that I want you to think about is, if you're not sure, ask yourself, does this align to who I want to be? Right? Is what I'm about to undertake genuinely going to be a piece of me? Is this the style of my life that I want? Is this the way I want my business to be? Is this what I want to be known for? Is this what I strive to be? And while this isn't an absolute bulletproof test, because you're early in the process, if you're considering about undertaking something, and those of you that are in my goal setting class, the master class, everything that we do is around who you want to be, not why you want to do it, not your why, your who, right? So does this align? And so when you get to the fork in the road, you're going to know the difference between whether this is a passing fancy or whether this is a deep desire. If you don't care enough, caring is your greatest asset and not caring is your worst enemy. Because if you don't care, you're not going to put the effort into it. And when times get tough, you're going to throw in the towel. So believe me, if you care about something, you'll let it pull you through. Okay, so these seven beliefs of mine have really changed my life, my happiness, my level of accomplishments, and my focus on the things that I do. It's so much more enriched, it's so much more rewarding, and I don't have many worries. I have stressors in my life. We all have that. I'm talking about fear and things that you can control, right? I'm not talking about a loved one gets sick and stuff like that. Of course, it's going to weigh on you. I'm talking about how do I get over that fear so I can get started on the big things that I want. So let me just recap these really quick. Dang. I had so many cards here. Wait, give me a second, people. Hold on. Here we go. Focus makes problems disappear. If you want more on this, it's in the leadership program. Remember, go easy on yourself. You are always a work in progress. There's a treasure in everything that you do. Short timers focus on wins. Long timers study their plans. One actual step is going to be much better than all that emotional overwhelm. Fewer is better. It enables bigger and caring. Well, your secret weapon is caring. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that. I knew I can get that in a half hour. So I hope you enjoyed that. But those 7 things have really, really carried me through a lot of those episodes where you just get afraid to do something. Now, if you're interested tomorrow, I'm not going to go into this. I'm just making the announcement here. Tomorrow at 11, I'm going through 10 steps of how once you make the commitment to do something, whatever it is that you want to accomplish, mechanically, what would I do? How would I set my life up? What are the things I would focus on? What are the things that'll help enable me to become the best at it and build it and build it and build it? And so if that's something you're interested in, hop into the leadership program. You can check that out. Maybe Kara could plop that up in the chat. Because you could check that out on your own, but tomorrow at 11, and the members of that program get the replay, and there's 3 or so different ways you can become a member in that. And if you got any questions, hit us up at support@milewalk.com. And if you're watching this on the recording, I probably, depending on when you're watching this, might have already shot that with my leadership crew, so you can catch both of these. All right, hope you enjoyed that. For anybody watching on the recording, I'll see you next week.